We can go after the system and try and make change there, or we could go grassroots and spread information like we're doing and trying and empowering people so they can make changes within their lives and their families' lives. So when it comes to, we're going to, there's a long time we're going to be able to get into a lot of the nuance here, but how do you look at that? Where are people supposed to put their energy when it comes to making change?
Yeah, I feel a lot of gratitude because I get a lot of energy and life meaning out of attacking and talking about the top down. And I have been able to engage with members of Congress, the White House, and politicians from both sides of the aisle. And let me be clear, I do think there are top down issues. We have the largest industries in the United States fundamentally incentivized for us to be sicker, fatter, more depressed, and more infertile. That is a big dynamic. We are fighting with a hand tied behind our back for our health. And again, I don't want to. I do think this is the biggest issue in the world, and we should just use plain language. But one of the largest and most powerful industries in the country, that are the highest spenders on media advertising, that are the highest spenders on political donations, that are the highest spenders on lobbying, that are the highest donators to nutritional research, that are the highest funders of medical schools. When these industries fundamentally have incentives for us to be sick, that's a huge problem. So I do think top-down change is needed, and we can definitely go into that. But for an average person, for somebody listening, and I think everyone listening is on a journey of bottoms-up empowerment. And I think the two need to converge. And I actually think the bottoms-up empowerment will impact top-down change. I mean, at the end of the day, talking to members of Congress, it's like, how do you combat the money of pharma and the money of the healthcare and the money of big food? The only way to combat money is grassroots. So as people are waking up, and I think millions of moms are becoming increasingly frustrated walking into classrooms and seeing how many kids are metabolically unhealthy, how many kids are obese, how many kids have health problems, allergies, autoimmune conditions, fatty liver disease, things that we didn't used to see. I think that is happening from the bottoms up. I think people listening to your podcast, people listening to Joe Rogan, people listening to health podcasts, but literally you span from comedy podcasts to health podcasts to everything under the sun. We're all talking about the same issue of personal empowerment, metabolic health. It's the top books that are being sold, billions of people wearing biowearables to actually understand what's going on inside their body and not taking the system's word for it. So I think all of these things actually are relatively subversive and are coming together. But this is the journey I'm on. And, from my perspective as a former, early in my career lobbyist for the food and pharma industries, to me, what's been helpful for my journey and as a new parent is having the confidence actually, and I'll just say it very explicitly, to listen to your doctor, to take what they say into account. But the medical system, your pediatrician, your primary care provider, does not deserve the benefit of the doubt when it comes to preventing chronic conditions. Let me be very clear. When it comes to preventing chronic conditions, the medical system has been an absolute abomination at chronic conditions, which lead to over 80% of U.S. deaths and lead to over 80% of U.S. healthcare costs. That is the conditions like obesity, like depression, like infertility, like diabetes, like heart disease. These are the things that are torturing and shortening American life right now. And it's been a failure. If you have an acute issue, if you have a gunshot wound, if you have a burst of appendicitis, if you have a complicated childbirth, if you have an infection, the medical system is a miracle. You should absolutely listen to your doctor. But the from the personal empowerment, the bottoms up, I think what we're seeing is we actually have to trust ourselves a little bit more. And this is where, again, I think the books, the biowearables, the podcasts, people being on their own journey, I think is vital. And I think the top down and the bottoms up converge at some point. And that's my theory of change that I think will happen in the next 10 years.
If you enjoyed that clip, press here for the full episode. I'll see you over there.
The medical system has been an absolute abomination at chronic conditions, which lead to over 80% of U.S. deaths and lead to over 80% of U.S. healthcare costs. That is the conditions like obesity, like